Now, as it has been always said, every problem has a solution. We will move on to the solutions aspect of it. Dr. We have Dr. Gurudas Nulkar, who is a renowned environmentalist, sustainability expert, and an educator, serving as a professor and director of the Center for Sustainable Development at Gokhale Institute of Politics in Pune. He has dedicated his career to advancing sustainable development, ecological economics, and alternative economic models. His contributions to environmental literature are widely recognized, having authored 5 books, including the acclaimed Marathi book Anartha Shastra, which received the C.D. Deshmukh Award in Economic Literature from Government of Maharashtra. 2 of his books have been honored with the Maharashtra State Literature Award. Beyond academia, Dr. Gurudas Nulkar actively serves on the board of Ecological Society Pune, contributing to policy discussions and ecological conservation efforts. His extensive body of work bridges the scientific research, industrial applications, and grassroots sustainability initiatives, making him a key advocate for climate resilient development and sustainable business practices in India. I would now request Dr. Gurudas Nulkar to take the dais.
And allow me to add, Gurudas Nulkar is an essential component, essential part of our team, and a wonderful person. Apart from anything else, a truly wonderful human being.
Thank you, sir.
One request.
Yes, sir.
Before you start the question, the panel discussion, please spend 10 minutes in explaining or sharing your thoughts on sustainable development.
Thank you so much.
One more suggestion, that after this there was supposed to be a session where we would come up with suggestions for Dr. Kelkar to consider. I think given the time, we should spend more time with each other, and that part of coming up with policy recommendations for the consideration of the Vice President, we will do it offline after the conference.
Thank you so much. I'm going to spend not more than 10 minutes exactly, because we know we are running out of time, and the temperature outside as well as inside is getting hotter. So I would like to cool things down a bit. So thank you so much for inviting me here and to be able to express some of my thoughts in this space. I want to start with what I heard Dr. Ranade say in the morning, and he talked about price as a signal for something in economic growth. And he especially talked about the famous Simon and Paul Ehrlich bet, which resulted in, Paul Ehrlich losing the bet. And he said that the 4 minerals actually reduced their prices over a 10-year period. Unfortunately, this example is probably not the right way to put in, and I'm free to talk. Dr. Ranade was formerly my boss, so today I don't have any problem talking against him. And I never did, because, we had a very healthy dialogue on many matters, and that was very useful. So a reduction in prices of minerals can be attributed to at least 2 things. Many other things, but at least 2 things. One is that the supply outstrips the demand, which means there is over-extraction of that mineral. And in all probability, this is what happened when Ehrlich predicted it. So today we know there is an over-extraction of minerals. In fact, if you go to the Indian Bureau of Mines website, IBR has a website, and on the website, they will have a list of mines which are stocked out. And that list goes to over about 200 mines in India which do not have any of the minerals that they originally meant to have. So one part about what Dr. Ranade said would be that, attributed to that. The second thing is the substitution effect. So that particular mineral is substituted by another mineral, and therefore the price of that mineral drops down. Now in both these cases, both these cases are not good for climate change. Over-extraction, as we know, is basically a removal of more minerals from earth, which means we have to deforest, we have to dig the earth, we have to take out stuff, we have to pollute the water, so on and so forth. As well as the other thing where you have to substitute and do that, because in that case, the Jevons paradox kicks in. So both these, in fact, I especially wanted Dr. Ranade to be here, but unfortunately he had to leave. I'll give you the other side, which happens with price as a feedback mechanism. And there is a very perverse feedback which happens with price rise. And I'll give you the example of overfishing. You know, overfishing has always been a problem because there is a limited stock of fish, and the fish breeding has a particular cycle. Fish populations are in a cycle, so on and so forth. So therefore, fishermen always have this feedback mechanism. But when there is overfishing of any particular fish that is very popular, then the price of that fish rises. Now, when the price of those fishes start rising in society, there is a perverse intense incentive for other fishermen to buy more trawlers and to go out and overfish. So the mechanism of price is unfortunately not something which is actually going to talk about whether climate change is going to be reducing or more. So these are the 2 points which I wanted to say, and I'll definitely talk about this to Dr. Rane when it happens. The third and the most important thing which I want to talk about is the solutions. You know, are there solutions? And Dr. Ranade said economic growth and the kind of economic growth. Of course, we need that. And he was very right when he said that in a country like India, we do need economic growth because for the simple reason that we need more taxes. We don't have justice, we don't have development, which is equitably distributed, and we need taxes, we need collection, and taxes are one of the strategically most important sources of finance for developing a country. Thus, what kind of economic growth do we need is the question that needs to be addressed. And the kind of economic growth that we need is a growth which is decoupled from natural resource extraction and a growth which is decoupled from environmental degradation. Is that possible? Of course, it is vehemently possible. Economic growth is possible without extraction, with reducing, which is called as the relative decoupling of natural resources extraction and relative decoupling of environmental degradation. Both these cases are possible. We know they are possible in many ways, but I want to spend just a couple of minutes to talking about 3 cases. One is India needs to increase the value added per use of product, per use of resource. I'll give you an example. Let's assume there's a village which produces turmeric. Now, the village sells this raw turmeric to a city. The city processes the raw turmeric into dry turmeric powder, and the villagers buy the dry turmeric powder from the city, which means the GDP of that village is as much as the revenue they get from the raw turmeric. Now, imagine if they were to process this raw turmeric and make powder out of it and sell it, the GDP of that village increases. So increasing the value added per use of resource will increase the GDP without increasing the natural resource consumption. And if they were to extract curcumin out of that, then they would be able to increase the GDP far more. So that is one part. Second is increasing the number of times a resource is used in the economy, which is very simply put is called a circular economy. How many times can you take back that mineral, put it into the use, and then re-put it into that? And there are many ways to do that. One, of course, is recycling. But the other more important way which is coming up is servicization of products, which means not selling the product, but selling the product as a service. So, for example, when Cummins thought about not selling their generators, but leasing out their generators and selling the power that somebody makes from that, is a very viable way to to increase the revenues of that company without increasing the natural resource consumption of the company. They could just take it back. One of the most successful cases in the world was a company called Xerox. Xerox leased out its photocopiers, and after 3 years, it took back that photocopier. The company only paid for the photocopies, took back that photocopier, used most of the parts into the new technology, and gave it back to the company. Phenomenal recycling was possible for Xerox, and phenomenal savings in money, plus increase in revenue. This is possible. So increasing the value add per product, increasing the number of times you use a resource, and the third and last thing is increasing the renewable resource content in your economy. Right? And the biggest renewable resource content in our economy is agriculture. So if we are able, today agriculture contributes about 16% of the GDP in a sectoral contribution of GDP. If we are able to raise that output, we are also able to address the other problem of reducing farmer poverty. We've been talking about doubling farmer income, and the strategies about doubling farmer income have not yielded much result. But in all three cases, we will be able to increase the amount of GDP, which is increased, the revenue, growth in economy with a relative decoupling in natural resource use and environmental degradation. All these things are possible. And the last point I wanted to make, about 2-3 minutes left, is our renewable energy pathway. Right? The power sector and the transport sector are the two biggest emitters of greenhouse gases in the world. And every country in the world is scrambling towards, getting into solar, into windmills, into battery, electric vehicles, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, all of these renewable energy pathways need few critical minerals, right? About 10 or 12 critical minerals. Now, about 55% of these critical minerals are present only in 15 countries on the planet, which means we are going to be unreasonably dependent upon those countries which are able to get those. And in many of these, critical minerals lie in the permafrost region of Siberia, Mongolia, China, and of course, Southern America and things like that. So critical minerals are going to be the next or probably point of contention. The way we created OPEC and the Gulf countries a monopoly, we might create another monopoly in the critical mineral sector. India, unfortunately, has about 10 of these critical minerals. The stock is 0. We don't have them. We have to entirely depend upon other nations for these critical minerals. Thus, the path for India's renewable energy transition needs to be relooked at in the resource that we actually possess. And the resources that we actually possess are 3: ample land, ample sunlight, and excellent knowledge about farming. These 3 critical resources can be put into getting back degraded and uncultivated lands into photosynthetic capacity, which means into the carbon cycle, and creating a decentralized model of biomass-based energy. And this is possible. We've been trying this out. In fact, we are now rolling out at least about 2 projects across India where we will be able to cultivate biomass as a feedstock, convert it to energy. Again, there are 3 pathways to energy. We can either convert it to biomass briquettes or convert it to biogas, which is compressed biogas, and the third is hydrogen. All 3 pathways are possible. And India has got ample of these resources. So my contention here is, when we are talking about solutions, we need to relook at the way economic growth is structured, and we need to move towards a greener GDP. There is nothing like a green GDP. There could be greener. We could be doing something which is less black than what was yesterday. And the other thing is move into a renewable energy pathway where we have full control of our resources. And lastly, I saw the emotions come out from Professor Malik, and even now, and that also reminded me of Dr. Ranade said that this is Sahir Ludhianvi's Jayanti. And I remember these famous lines of Shahir Ludhianvi's. Kabhi halat pe, kabhi khud pe rona aaya. Baat nikli hai to har baat pe rona aaya. So we have to go beyond this rona aaya and to look at hope. Thank you so much.